This audio is about how to know if you are poor. It is about how to answer that question. The first point to make is that whether or not a person is poor is not a function solely of how much money that person has. Given only that two people have the same amount of money, given only that two people are exactly equally wealthy, it does not follow that they are both poor or that they are both rich. It does not follow that if the one is poor to a given extent, then the other is poor to that same extent. Why is this? Because whether or not somebody is poor in any meaningful sense of the word is a function not just of the financial resources at their disposal, but of the financial resources at their disposal and of what their objectives are, their actual objectives, okay? Not the objectives that they try to tell themselves that they have because they're so poor, but what their actual objectives are. So you can think of wealth or poverty, however you want to look at it, as being identical or equal to financial resources divided by objectives, okay? Divided by idealized objectives, okay? Not just the truncated objectives that one tells oneself that one has when one realizes how little one can do given the meager resources at one's disposal. And, you might think, well, look, how exactly is this to be quantified? I mean, obviously, it's easy enough to quantify, the first parameter, the wealth parameter. I mean, how much money do you have? Well, how much wealth do you have? Well, look, how much money do you have in your checking account? Do you have a car? How much is it worth? Okay, that part's easy. Okay. Now, the other part is not easy. And I'm not going to give you a way of quantifying it exactly, and it doesn't have to be quantified, but here's a very, very useful psychological criterion or behavioral criterion. It is this: is your behavior fundamentally conservative in nature? And is the reason for that you lack resources? Let me clarify what I mean by this with an example. Okay, right now I really am poor, okay? I will be honest, it's not, to my credit, it's just a fact, okay? And I've discussed this in other podcasts. I had money, then I had a business idea, it didn't work, now I have no money, okay? And now I have another business idea, and maybe this one will work. Okay, who knows? All right, but anyway, so just a moment ago, I was sitting down at my desk to get to work, actual work, and I was about to adjust my hair or something, and I nicked my glasses. I almost broke them. I kind of swiped my hand across my face, and I almost broke them. I did not, okay? But at that instant, I realized how fragile my financial condition was, because if I broke my glasses, I'd be in a really bad place. I simply don't have the resources at this moment to buy another pair. And I have very bad vision. I have 2700 vision. And I realized at that moment that a great deal of my behavior at this juncture of my life, it used to be different, but at this juncture of my life, a great deal of my behavior has to do simply with avoiding things that could lose me money, not with doing things that could make me money. It has to do simply with protecting what very little I have. And when your life is about protecting what little you have, as opposed to amplifying it, you are poor, okay? When your life is about conservation, not expansion, you are poor, okay? Poverty is not about having money, it's not about lacking money, it's about having a defensive stance with regard to reality, a defensive contractual stance with regard to reality. Wealth is not about having money, it's about having an offensive, expansionary, non-defensive stance with respect to reality. Now, if one has very little money, it's very hard to sustain an expansionary and non-self-limiting approach to reality. And if one has a lot of money, one inevitably, though one doesn't know it when one has money, but it is the case, if one has a lot of money, one inevitably has a more aggressive and expansionary approach to reality. Nonetheless, the principle I'm stating still holds, and one can have as little money as somebody whose attitude towards reality is extraordinarily defensive and contractual, and yet still oneself have an expansionary and essentially non-defensive attitude towards reality, and thus, at least in some vectorial sense, as opposed to a position sense, and thus in some pregnant sense of the word, be wealthy.